Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining and sticking with us today. For this session, I'm excited to be joined by some of the best marketers in the business to talk about the ways you can gather and turn research into strategic content that hits the sweet spot with your audience. Next to me on stage are the best Morgan Lehman the Senior Director of Product and Solutions Marketing, and Eric Van Susteren, Director of Content Strategy at SurveyMonkey. And who better to tell us about research than SurveyMonkey themselves? Hi, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having us. By way of introduction, as Kinga mentioned, I'm Morgan. I lead product and solutions marketing. I also just inherited customer advocacy as a team. And so very happy to be here today. I'm a researcher turned marketer, used to be in market research and consulting, have been with SurveyMonkey for over 8 years. So this is a very strong passion of mine. So really happy to be here talking about this topic today.
Yeah, and I am not be more stoked to talk about content strategy and research, because that is what I do day in, day out. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it. I've also been at SurveyMonkey for 8+ years. And so I, have been steep in this for a really long time. And I'm really excited to talk to you all about it today.
Thank you so much. I'm honestly so excited to have you both here. And as I said, who better to talk about this than you guys? So just a quick reminder to our audience before we get started, the Q&A and chat are open. So please engage, please pop in your questions, and we will get to them as soon as possible. In the meantime, before we get started, I'd love to run a quick poll with our audience just to find out, how are you guys doing your research right now? Or maybe you're not. So the poll should be open. So head over to the poll and vote, guys. I'd love to see what sort of research you're doing at the moment.
While people are throwing their answers into the poll, I'll just say there are a lot of different types of research projects listed here. Don't get nervous if you're not doing all of these all the time. We work at a research company. We're not doing these all the time. I've said we've dabbled in a lot of these, but just to make sure that you aren't sitting here sweating, thinking, "Oh no, I'm not doing any of this."
Yeah, no, I'm actually seeing so many results popping up, and there's a clear winner, and it's customer feedback, which actually, maybe it's just me, but I'd argue it's probably one of the most important research pieces to exist. So this is definitely a winner, which is great to see. There's a couple of none, which is absolutely fine. That's why you're here. And I'm sure Morgan and Eric will have lots to share. Other ones that are coming up at top are user experience research, message testing, which is great. And then we've got some personal research. We've got a couple of votes for market segmentation, creative testing, and brand health tracking. So overall, most people are doing some good research. So I think now that we know what you guys are doing, I think it's time to hear about what Eric and Morgan are doing in terms of their research, right? So I am really curious to learn about the specific instances where research has played a pivotal role in reshaping your brand or content strategy, and how did it contribute to adapting to the current market trends for you both?
Sure. I think I can start on this one, and I can speak to one thing that we kind of do basically all the time at SurveyMonkey, and it's super simple and intuitive to understand for people. It's just test everything all the time, especially when it comes to the creative front. So logo designs, taglines, ad copy, even video treatments we do. So we just are constantly using surveys to kind of try to understand what our prospects and our customers are feeling about our messages, our designs, just pretty much everything on the creative front. So I can run through a quick example we did recently. So yeah, what you're seeing here is a couple of design treatments for logos for our brand new product, that's SurveyMonkey Forms. Kind of a high importance moment for us. This is sort of a brand new product area for us, and it put us in the arena with some really well-established brands, and we just really wanted to make sure that our debut was flawless. So we've got some different taglines here. Some of them got these interesting box treatments and things like that. I knew which one was my favorite, but we definitely wanted to get a little bit of extra data to sort of validate our thoughts. So when we do this, it's not when we send surveys about logo designs and things of this nature. It's not just sort of like asking people like, hey, do you like this or not? No, like we have a little bit of rigor that we have to apply to these things. And I'm not a market researcher, but luckily we do have a purpose-built solution for this. And so even me, who's not an expert at all, would have been able to set this up really easily and get detailed insights about the specifics of what people thought about this logo. So let's just go to the next slide real fast and we can take a look here. So this is what the scorecard of the survey would look like. When we're done with it, on the left, you can see what we call metrics. These are just basically the elements, qualities that we were interested in measuring with our target audience. Some of these are really basic. You'll see overall appeal, is it visually appealing, unique, but there's like some custom ones that we can add in here too. So we added zesty down there at the bottom, if you can see that. And that's just kind of like an idea that we aspire to with our brand. We try to be zesty. So we thought, why not? So I don't want to get too much into the weeds about how this all works, but essentially the highlighted boxes you see are winners, statistically significant winners, and then the letters you see are the ones that they beat statistically significantly. So if that all makes sense to everybody, essentially what we're looking at here is there's some losers on the board and maybe some potential winners, and like we didn't get a slam dunk on this, right? And we're not supposed to. This is sort of just a tool that helps us guide a decision. It doesn't make the decision for us. It's not like ChatGPT for surveys, but you shouldn't be using that ChatGPT like that anyway. So anyway, we eventually ended up pitching off option F, and we had option D as a backup. But the next part where this data comes in handy is like, I'm sure this never happens to any of you guys, but for me, I have been put on the spot by execs before and asking me why I made a particular decision. And I can tell you it's amazing to have some solid data to point to help back up your decision. So you can say, hey, Mr. Big Shot, you may love this funky box one. Turns out our customers just didn't think it was zesty enough. So we just this one, So it's kind of an example of how survey research can sort of guide our strategy on the creative front. Like it can validate with external stakeholders, but also internal stakeholders, and can be really important for both.
I love that. And the zesty comments, please keep giving them because they're brilliant. Also, what was it? Statistically, he said something about statistically scientific. Oh, I don't. Great. You can tell you're a content person for sure. Morgan, I'll let you add to that.
Yeah. So where, Eric's world fits a lot more in the realm of brand and content strategy, where I sit with product marketing, a lot of what we are doing research to inform is a little bit more behind the scenes. So it's not going to be our outward facing content or our outward facing branding, but maybe it's informing some of the strategy. So one of the things that we own as a discipline are our personas, and who are we targeting and what do they care about? What are their pain points and their challenges? What benefits would they see in a solution like ours? We also may even get into testing messaging and claims and things like that. And for us, we use a variety of different research methods. So probably a lot of things that you saw in the poll. We're refreshing our market segmentation right now. We do that every couple of years. You don't need to do that so frequently. But even we're in the middle of H1 planning right now, as I'm sure many of you are, and we're figuring out what persona research we need to do, what open questions we have, and things like that to inform our strategy for next year. So I'll share one example, and this one is a little bit of, I tried to make it as close to brand strategy as possible. For a little bit of context, we were in a little bit of a brand moment where we were transitioning. We had launched this Momentive brand. We were now refocusing back on SurveyMonkey, and we wanted to make sure that our main product value props that would live in a lot of places, our website, our sales pitch decks, et cetera, were validated with our target buyers. So we ran what's called a max diff study. So what it does is it takes a whole set of attributes. So in this case, on the left-hand side, you can see the attributes that we tested, or the value props that we tested. And it kind of randomizes it in a question format, kind of like what you see on the right-hand side. And what we get out of that is a truly stack ranked importance of these key value props. So if you were to ask a simple question, maybe it was a 5-point scale or something like that, you might end up with a bunch of value props that just tie for all being really important. So we use this methodology called MaxDiff to do some research to really understand what matters most to our target buyers. And so you can kind of see a lot of these things that you may or may not think of when you think of the SurveyMonkey platform, but we really wanted to understand what was going to be the most important when purchasing a platform. So obviously you might even also know SurveyMonkey as a free platform or that freemium model where you can start playing around, send simple surveys for free, but as you need better functionality or need to send surveys to larger samples, you would upgrade. And so for us, we were really more caring about what's going to drive that payment and that upgrade. So in terms of results, this is kind of what we found: intelligent, powerful, flexible, fast, intuitive. So some of the things that we knew people think of like easy, fast about SurveyMonkey actually weren't the top ones. So we found out intelligent and powerful actually really matter. And so it's helping us inform how we're tweaking our messaging. It's even going back and saying and informing our product strategy in a little bit. And then I will say that, we're in the middle right now of refreshing our core SurveyMonkey explainer video. And I will tell you, I went through that script, and as a reviewer, I was making sure that we were hitting on all of these value props in that video. So it's kind of been this foundational thing that has informed a lot of what we've done. And the cool part about it too is we were able to then segment the results for different audiences. So, okay, what did everyone think? But what about small business owners or small businesses? Or what about larger enterprises? We could kind of segment this down even by persona. So just a really good piece of research that we did. And this was 8-9 months ago, and we're still like really using it. And it'll probably be a core piece of research that informs our strategy for a while. So that is that example.
I love that. And I think based on our audience, they definitely love this example because it's so strategic and you're really thinking about the long-term strategy and, how do you position your brand, your product based on what customers think of you as a brand, which I think is the most important. And I think, we all said that customer feedback is one of the most important things in our poll. So that quite nicely sums up the fact it really should be one of the most important pieces of research you've got. So leading me on to my next question, which I'd also love to share another poll with the audience. And the poll is, are you publishing original research as part of your content strategy? And of course, the question for you guys is, in the meantime, how, now that the audience is answering, I'd love if you can share an example of some of your successful content campaigns heavily influenced by research insights. How did understanding your audience's preferences and cultural trends shape the messaging and the impact of the content? I have a feeling, Eric, you're going to lead this one for us.
So on the content front, research and like particularly survey research touches pretty much everything we do. So to us, including valuable survey data and content just makes it more believable, more authoritative, just plain better, right? So it's not just that we include research in all our content, we pretty much we base our content strategy around research in large part. So I can give some examples. So the next slide. Yeah, so what we're looking at here is a series of reports that we tackled this year. And you're going to see some clear themes here. When it comes to selecting content types, like we really try to balance relevance with our key buyer personas with just like the hottest button issues people are facing today. And there's basically no hotter button issue than AI. I'd definitely challenge you to find one right now. And so essentially what we did was, over the course of a few reports, is just explore how our key personas, and that's HR folks, marketers, CX people, and like a few other smaller ones, were perceiving sort of the risks and opportunities of AI. So obviously we did that by asking them with surveys. And essentially these content pieces end up being super popular with our prospect base. They generate a ton of leads for our sales funnels. And the best part of it is like, this type of research is like endlessly recyclable. So we've got a PDF report that's gated for our demand gen folks for sure. But we also can use this research to build the paid ads that drive to the report. So like imagine seeing an ad that says, hey, 65% of marketers aren't worried about AI. Want to find out why? It's kind of compelling, right? Like I think it, and we found it's bared out that this has been really great for engagement with our ads. We also generate PR opportunities with these findings. So I'll share a brief of our key findings with our PR folks. Sometimes we'll even write bylines for them that include our research, link to our site. Really great way of getting some attention on it. And then finally, we just kind of create endless social content based on it. Okay, so tons and tons of cool carousels and teaser videos. I think I have an example of the next one, next slide. Hopefully it works. Oh my gosh, okay, good. And so this was something that our motion graphics fellow, who's really talented, helped us with. And it actually ended up being one of our highest engaged posts on social ever. And actually drove some pipeline, I believe, which was not even a goal for our social team, but we're going to take it anyway, obviously. So it's just a quick plug to consider video for promoting your content whenever possible, because it is super engaging on social, especially when you pair it with research. So again, like I think research really spans the gamut when it comes to how it affects our content. Like I honestly can't emphasize enough just how important it is to our content strategy. It's really key.
Great.
Yeah. I'll just echo what Eric said. And my one little minute comment to just build on it is, you know, in product marketing, we're so close to sales. And this research is also an incredible way to arm and enable our sales team to, one, like speak confidently about the industry and the buyer that they're speaking to, but then also they're using these little nuggets, these stats in their outreach. They're including some of this information in their pitches to, again, drive that authority and credibility. So it's being used across all channels and distribution methods that we have really at the company.
So this actually quite nicely leads me as well to the next question, especially with the poll results that we received. So according to our audience, only about 50% of them are currently doing research for their content strategy or just at all for their brand. So I guess my question is, taking a step back, what is your approach to doing research to make sure you get the most out of your team, resources, and budget without compromising the results? Because clearly our audience needs help with this, and I know so do I. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah.
I'll let Eric dive into this in just a second, because we've got some behind the scenes things we can share with you. I'll start with just who is doing research at SurveyMonkey. Now, granted, we're very lucky. We're blessed to have tools at our disposal, obviously, that we produce ourselves to conduct research. So that part is pretty set in our world. But who is doing research is another great way to think about it. You know, if I think about the entire organization at our company, we've got folks doing research within our product org. We've got an entire product research team, a customer insights team. We've got folks that dedicated to doing research on our brand team. And then I'd say the other piece to that is that most people at the company are at least somewhat enabled to do their own research if they need to. So that is something that probably makes us a little bit unique, but it's something to think about as you're embarking on wanting to do research internally at your own company, is like, who would be the right team to do that kind of research? So I'll let Eric talk a little bit more about how we're doing that on the marketing side.
Yeah, for sure. So I really wasn't kidding when I said research is literally the centerpiece of our content strategy. And you can kind of see an example of what our 1 year's research and content might look like from a planning perspective. Like there's some hypotheticals in here. I'm not giving away the farm, but you can kind of see what it might look like on a yearly basis. So at the top here, we have our centerpiece research. Most of the time, these are sort of state of reports for our key personas, which sort of appropriately come around once a year. We have some partnership research with folks like CNBC. I wouldn't necessarily expect y'all to have that kind of thing, but we do, in which they're kind of always running in the background. We get some good content out of that as well. And then finally, there's just like stuff that comes up that we want to look into, right? So AI is a really good example of that, where we were like, man, we really got to get on top of this and understand how it's affecting our most important personas. So those things are sort of the ad hoc projects that come up and may turn into a campaign in the way that AI research did. And then, you can, basically I included what fit on the slide here. There's way more than that, but like there's just some, you can kind of see at the bottom, there's some of the ways that we use the content to amplify. So yeah, like I do want to say, I don't want to come in here and just say like, hey, you should do research and then kind of like throw a smoke bomb and leave. Like it's important to approach this with a lot of rigor. And so like every major research project that we do, we have a process that looks something like this. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so in the beginning, you really want to make sure that you are clear and solidify a hypothesis and decide what factors you're most interested in studying. Really, this takes a lot of the edge out when you're doing other things later. The next part of this, the actual survey design, this can take up to 1 to 2 weeks. Like you really want to nail it. And if you can get outside help, if you're not a survey methodologist, it could be worth it. Don't forget that fielding can take anywhere from a few days to 2 weeks, kind of depending on how niche your audience is. Like HR executives will take a lot longer than just general Americans interested in AI. And then the last part, or sorry, not the last part, the next part is kind of the fun part for me. You can dive into the data, explore the best insights. For me, and I recommend you do this too, it's always important to look at crosstabs, guys. So just that means essentially like, hey, how do the responses from individual contributors vary from the responses from managers? Or among the people who were worried about AI, how do they differ from the people who weren't? Those kinds of things are usually where you find the best information. And then this is probably actually the fun part. Content production is like maybe my favorite part. Anyway, I can't decide. It's this is one of the best parts. Essentially, it's really important here to kind of create a brief that shares the most important insights and share that with your team and stakeholders first. Like, do this step. It's really important because, as soon as you get started, I have a team of people who do this all together, right? So I've got one person working on video scripts and social posts, another person writing the actual report. We've got somebody working on ad copy and emails. Someone might be adding these insights to frameworks for product pages, SEO pages, etc. So everyone needs to be on the same page and working from the centralized brief so that we can kind of scale the content production over and work in parallel. Because if we don't, we might be telling different stories with the data and we want to be all aligned. So really important to have that sort of brief where you put all the information. And then, essentially, like if I do my job right, everything is kind of done all at once. We can pass it off to the various stakeholders and promotion partners, and they can kind of use the content, promote it, and prosper. So that's kind of how it works.
Amazing. As we don't have a lot of time left, I am going to move on to our next question because I know there's a lot to cover. I'd love to know more about how you identify and measure key performance indicators. So based on your research findings, and how do you use this to measure the impact of your brand's strategy and marketing today?
I'll take this one. Eric mentioned that he enables his channel partners to go off and prosper. And I think that is indicative of what we try to measure. So, of course, we are looking at all of the specific asset metrics that you would look at. So, if this is part of a content piece or a web page, we're looking at all the same types of things like traffic and engagement and conversion. The PDF reports, we're looking at, the sales funnel. So how is this campaign driving MQLs, qualified opportunities, all the way through to close won bookings? We've got a data analytics team, so we're doing our attribution modeling and all of that good stuff. So really, it's not that different than what you're probably doing today with your typical content strategy and measuring effectiveness. What we do like to look at, is, campaign by campaign, how are these things comparing? How do we double down on the things that are working? And we have seen historically that our campaigns that are based in research do outperform the campaigns that aren't. And so that is something that we have seen, which is why, again, we continue to double down there in terms of our strategy. So part of your question, Kinga, was about the impact to brand. And so something that we haven't really talked about yet is just the overarching brand health and how we might be measuring that. And so I will give you a little sneak peek into some of the questions that we do include in our brand health tracker. And so that's something that we are running on a regular basis. And we're doing it with kind of more of like a small business audience, an enterprise audience. And it's looking at, of course, our SurveyMonkey brand health funnel from awareness to familiarity, consideration, choice. But we're also looking at some product metrics. So, for example, this would be like a product capability awareness question. So are you aware that we offer these things? And in some cases, the research in our content and some of those campaigns are meant to be helping to promote specific product capabilities. So we're doing that. Then we also have a question around product value and having folks select the statements that describe how they think about SurveyMonkey. And so what you'll notice, and we've got some things here: intelligent, intuitive, powerful. Hopefully that's ringing a bell back to that value prop max diff that we ran. So again, we're finding the things that are important through research. We're then tracking that over time to make sure that those things are, coming to mind when they think of our brand. So it kind of comes full circle when you see how we're tracking brand health and how some of these things ladder up. So that's a good example. And I know we are running close to time. So I'll leave it to you, Kinga, if we want to finish and wrap this last question, or if we want to move and take some from the audience. If there are any, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I think there's one question from the audience, which I love to ask. With AI being new and ever changing, how do you get relevant data?
Yeah, I mean, this is a challenge. It is moving fast. We keep on running new polls on this, and I think we're finding now that we're looking at the information we have, and we're like, maybe this is outdated. We have to run it again. So I think in this particular case, we're thinking about rerunning this data, even though it's been only like 2 or 3 months. So it depends on the subject, but in this case, you just gotta keep on top of it. It's a wild world out there.
Amazing. I love that. And because I am very, very curious, what is the one piece of advice that you would say to anyone that's wanting to foster a culture for research culture, for their team? What is the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I can take that one. So we have a culture of curiosity at SurveyMonkey, so that's something that we have innate in our culture. But for me, I think the biggest things for trying to drive that at any company would be one, empowering your teams with the right tools or vendors, or just like making sure that is available to people. So whether it is a survey platform or a UX research platform, or even being able to tap into people for qualitative research, the access to customers, things like that. So just making sure that that's unlocked for people. And then the other piece would be, if we've got leaders on the line here, is encouraging your teams to be thinking about how am I bringing data to the table to help answer a strategic question, or how could we beef up this content with some original stats? that either you're gathering from customers or the market. So I'd say it's like kind of that combination of enablement and the tools, and then empowering and then encouragement from leadership.
Amazing. I love that so much. I think that is a wrap. Too short as always, but thank you.
We'll
so
come
much.
back. We'll talk more about this any day.
100%. We'll have you back. Thank you so much, Bob. You've been amazing, and I will share everything with the audience as always.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.